Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you to the Paramount. Thank you to Green Mountain Power for sponsoring this event. Thanks to Mayor Loris. And where's Mayor Loris anyway? Come on, I know he was here. Right there, all the way in the back. Let's give him a hand for all he's done for the great city of Rutland. Come on out, you guys. And thanks to all of you for joining this economic summit. And I'm bringing out my team. We're going to sign a little bill today called H377, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And I'm going to introduce the extraordinary cast of characters in back of me that's done so much to make this bill possible. But I want to talk a little bit about big picture and jobs, economic development, and our journey together, just very briefly, to help hopefully to set the tone for what I know is going to be a very productive summit. Listen, we have a single focus, as you know, as an administration, as a legislature, as communities working together in all sectors of Vermont. And it's to find ways to create jobs coming out of the toughest recession in American history, and finding ways to grow incomes for Vermonters that have jobs. Those are our two challenges. And I think the beauty of Vermont, unlike what's happening in some other parts of America right now, is that we come together, Democrats, Republicans, progressives, independents, with all sectors of the economic engine of Vermont. And we find ways to partner to make magical things happen. So I always say you're better planning your economic future from a position of strength than a position of weakness. And right now, today, I would argue we're starting to see the signs of strength. The signs of strength. What's the evidence? Right now, as you know, Vermont has the third lowest unemployment rate in America. We're down to 4% in the last numbers. That's an extraordinary accomplishment of all of you and many others. As Mary Powell just mentioned, with the extraordinary investment that Green Mountain Power is making in downtown Rutland and what's happening all across this state, we have more green, clean, high-tech jobs per capita than any other state in the country right now. And we were the only state to see income growth in 2011. Now, it was only 4%, but guess what? That's 4% better than the other 49 states. And I would argue that the reason for that growth, the reason for that economic recovery, the reason for our ability today to plan from a position of more strength than we thought we had just a few years ago, is the diversified recovery that we're ensuring in this state. This broad sector of all the hard work of the people in this room. Look, think about it. It's not just one sector. Here in Rutland and across the state, we're seeing a resurgence of manufacturing jobs in Vermont. Now, that's a pretty remarkable thing. I would give a dime to anyone that would have said in Vermont, just 6 or 7 years ago, manufacturing has a bright future in the state. Everyone's like, no, we're offshoring it, it's going to go into India and it's going to China and we're all done. Go down and talk to GE Rutland just down the road and many other companies right here in Rutland. Because of the work of the RDC, because of the work of the mayor, because of the work of the Rutland Chamber, because of the work of so many that have been working so hard, they've got jobs, good paying jobs, and we're continuing to see those jobs grow. Then you got Paul Costello here, rural Vermont, the fact that we're seeing an agricultural renaissance. Go to the Rutland Farmers Market if you don't believe me. This is an extraordinary thing. Value-added product, farm to plate, farm to fork, locally grown, combined with some life in our dairy industry again. We've got a bright ag future. Our best ag days and jobs are ahead of us, not behind us, because of the innovation that we're bringing to that. Energy, renewable. We're harnessing the wind and the sun in our fields and our forests and our streams and our manure, cow power, you name it. We're doing it. Energy efficiency, we're doing it. We're standing here in what we can't call it the solar city, right, Mary, anymore, but it's the solar capital of the world instead. I mean, big things happening. If you look at what's happening in so many sectors of the economy, tech and everywhere else, go up to dealer.com, go down to GS Precision in Brattleboro, those companies will tell you if they could find the workforce right now, they would grow faster than they otherwise can. So our challenge together, and I know Steve Morse is here from State Board of Education doing a great job, our challenge together is to take the extraordinary opportunities that we have and make sure that we do a few things. One is, if you talk to employers now in Vermont, as you know, and many of you are feeling this, I know Steve is here, a lot of folks are here who are growing jobs, they'll say, a couple of years ago we were looking at layoffs, now our challenge is how do we find enough educated workers, particularly in science, math, technology, engineering, to do the work we have. Well, this legislature worked together with me and all of you to come up with some pretty innovative ideas. They're going to make sure that we are the education state. If we can take a good education system and make it the best, we've got a prosperous future, a very prosperous future. Second, downtowns. That's what this bill we're about to sign is about. Listen, the strength of Vermont, the strength of our economic recovery, the strength of our quality of life is deeply rooted in this Paramount, in this downtown, in Green Mountain Power and so many others bringing their jobs back downtown, and not just in Rutland, but across the state. I always like to quote when I talk about our jobs, a great Rutlander, who doesn't live here anymore. But when I first became governor, you know, there's no training program for governors. I went around and talked to folks about how you do this job. And I'll never forget stopping by Bobby Miller's office. Now, Bobby Miller's a Rutland boy. Most of you know him. He now is up in Chittenden County, and he's got more commercial property, I think, than probably anyone else in the state. But he built it the hard way, hard work, made it happen. So I went in and I said, Bobby, listen, we all know the challenge for me and for any governor right now is jobs. What's your advice? And this is what he said. As a Rutland person, as a person who loves this town but's been in Chittenden County so long, I thought maybe he forgot. And he said, you know, Governor, he said, Chittenden County is doing great. We can do it all by ourselves. We don't need a lot of help. It's going to happen here. Your job and our job is to create economic opportunities for kids like me that grew up in Rutland so they can stay in Rutland. The Northeast Kingdom, Bennington, Brattleboro, White River, St. Johnsbury, Newport, St. Albans, all the parts of the state that don't ever see enough economic growth. So I would say as we look at where we're going today and where we need to go, let's bear in mind that it's not just a total of jobs we're talking. It's a total of vibrant downtowns. It's a total number of great educational outcomes in every community in Vermont. It's thinking big. The 10,000 jobs we're creating up in Newport right now, biggest economic development for the Northeast Kingdom, generally the highest unemployment rate historically in the history in the state of Vermont. What we're doing in Rutland. We can't do Rutland if we don't make some infrastructure investments. High-speed rail that this legislature put money into along the eastern side of the state. We got to build it. Natural gas to Rutland. That's critical to economic development. You can make arguments against it. I'm telling you, if we don't get natural gas down along the western side of the state, it's much tougher to grow jobs and to make Vermont affordable. And the list goes on. So listen, I've rambled long enough. You're going to do the hard thinking during this summit. I just want to say, let's build from an opportunity of strength. Let's remember that the recipe for jobs that we have right now, which is diversified, everybody in, not one economic sector, but all economic centers, built around strong downtowns where neighbors take care of neighbors and neighbors take care of strangers, and we work collectively in a Vermont spirit to build a better future. That's what it's all about. So we've got a little bill to sign here, H377. It's an act relating to neighborhood planning and development for municipalities in designated centers like Rutland. And I want to thank a number of folks who've been so instrumental in making this bill happen. First of all, to my team, to Lawrence Miller, my secretary, to my deputy commissioner, Jen Holler. Is Jen here today? I think so. To our commissioner, Noel McKay, to all the folks at Community Development and Housing who've worked so hard on this conference. I know John Adams, POTUS, others have worked hard on this. Let's give them a huge hand for the work that they're doing across the state. Thank you, Secretary. But it's really the legislators, starting with Speaker Smith, who got behind H377 with a vengeance. A huge shout out to the chair of Economic Development Committee in the Senate, Kevin Mullen, for whom this would never happen without good Rutland boy, and to Representative Herb Russell on the House side, along with Representative Steve Carr, who's representing the committee today, I believe, and Michelle Cooper-Smith, Senator Ann Cummings, Bill Botsow, who wishes he could be here, Representative Dickinson, Marcotte, Klein, and Ansel. Let's give them all a hand for their great work. Did I miss anybody? To our partners, the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, the Chamber of Commerce, not only in Rutland but across the state, VNRC, the RDCs, and thanks so much to the Rutland RDC for their great work, affordable housing coalitions, realtors, the home builders, and remodelers that are here and have been a great help with this bill. Preservation Trust of Vermont, thank you so much to the Planners Association, Lake Champlain Chamber. As you can tell, it's been a group effort. I want to talk just very briefly about this bill, and then who else is talking about this bill? Anybody? Senator Mullen's going to have the stage, and Representative Carr. So just very briefly, what this bill does is expand the areas around downtowns and villages for new housing development. It provides resources to help communities make it easier to build housing in areas outside of floodplains and river corridors, and it gives benefits to communities that demonstrate that they're development ready, including, this is important, Act 250 exemptions for mixed housing projects, because we know that housing is one of the obstacles to job growth in Vermont, good affordable housing. Reduced water fees and Act 250 fees, if applicable. Dedicated technical assistance and priority consideration for state grants when you're in a designated downtown. And help to municipalities to encourage the rehab and reinvestment of blighted properties by allowing communities to forego local taxes on the value of the new building improvements. I want to give a shout out to the mayor, to Chief Baker, to the community that's working so hard in Rutland, and this is happening in other parts of the state, to ensure that as we strengthen our downtowns, we also strengthen our quality of life. And we all know that we're facing extraordinary challenges with opiates and other drugs that are ravaging our communities from one end of the state to the other. And the legislature did some smart things this year. They passed a bill that I'll be signing next week that gives us more tools in the fight against opiate addiction, heroin addiction. They passed a bill to ensure that we use our law enforcement resources dedicated to fighting opiates and heroin and other addictions instead of using those resources to fight small amounts of marijuana. They did everything that they could think of, along with my team, to give the communities the tools to help fight our losing battle against heroin. But I would argue that the true arsenal that's going to help us fight this battle is stronger downtowns and communities working together in the Vermont spirit to strengthen our neighborhoods, to strengthen blighted properties like the mayor is trying to do here with so many in Rutland, and to make sure that when we have strong communities and rebuilt communities, you know who's in your community. You know who your neighbor is. And in the Vermont spirit, we know what they're up to. And we help. And we get them help when they need help. That's why I believe, because as Mary said at the beginning of this meeting, our small size, that we know each other, that we care about each other, that we take care of our neighbors. That's why I believe we can also win the battle against heroin and other opiates in this state. So thank you to the extraordinary work. I want to turn it over now to first to Senator Mullen just to say a few words about this bill before we sign it and let you get back to work. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Governor. Welcome to Rutland. It's glad to see everybody in this building. You know, for many years people thought that this building had seen its glory days, and yet now we know the glory days are yet to come. H377 really, the real kudos go to Commissioner McKay. Noel did a phenomenal job bringing all the parties together, those that supported it and those that might not have been supportive, and she got everybody to agree, and that when you get people to agree, that's so important. And the blighted property piece really began with a conversation from Brendan Duffy, who right behind me, exactly, with the city of Rutland, and Brennan used to work for the state. He came up with the idea. Herb Russell put together a meeting, we met, and this was the emphasis that came out of that. But this is only step one, because this is only tax stabilization for the municipal side of things, and we really want to get to the full tax stabilization across the whole property. But to think that a city of Rutland can designate 140 properties as being blighted residential units, these are things that we need to address. And Rutland is the little train that thinks it can, and so is the state of Vermont. And we're the train that thinks it can because of everybody that's sitting in this room today. So this bill is a small beginning, but when you have ideas, don't be afraid to contact your legislators, and let us try to go to work and try to get them through. It's been a pleasure working with the Shumlin administration on this bill and many others. The governor puts together great people, and when you have great people, good things can happen. And I had the pleasure this year of working with my House colleague, Bill Botsaw, who can't be here today, but I think Steve will offer some words from him. But the House team, along with my committee in the Senate, was just a great group of people dedicated to trying to create jobs and move us forward. And we thank you for coming here today to share your thoughts, and we look forward to learning from you, because it's from you that the ideas come forward. So thanks again.
Thank you, Senator Mullen. Thanks for your great job, and to you and your committee. I now want to introduce Steve Carr. Steve worked very hard on the bill, as did his entire committee. Doing a great job. Thank you, Steve. Take it away.
There's really nothing to take away. All I could do is say the same things that you've heard already. And the important takeaway, I think, for all of us to do on this is to recognize that both chambers are anxious to do things that are helpful. I see this bill as being a follow-on to the downtown designation and expansion there. I think towns that choose to develop their downtowns and take advantage of a lot of this are enabled much better, and so on. And that's why I think this is pretty important. The thank yous to Noelle McKay and her people. All you have to do is listen to the governor's list of people that were assembled and entities that were assembled and were consulted for this, and the credit goes back there. And I think this is really going to be something that can be expanded little by little over time in all the ways. The blighted property thing is very useful, because folks that can invest in the blighted properties are going to be able to start planning better for how it makes financial and fiscal sense to build to do that. So this really was something working all the way along, everybody working together. The governor, in signing it, shows the executive support to it. Hopefully we can keep things like this going and keep them as part of an economic development plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else want anything? Mr. Secretary, you're happy? Noelle, you're good?
Good.
Lucy, you're in?
Good.
Anyone have any regrets before we sign this? All right, here we go. We got to get out of here and let these folks get to work. Come on up. Come on, this is where you crowd in. Who's shooting? Drew, come on, let's go. Drew Wesley's got the camera, that's all that matters. Okay. Are you ready? You want us to smile for you? All right. Done deal. Signed. Do we think it's the third all day? Yeah. Just checking. That's a bad one to mess up. Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for the work you're about to do. Thanks to Green Mountain Power, and thanks to all these great legislators and organizations who helped make this happen.
Thank you very much.
Way to go, buddy.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your support.